All right. So, welcome to the Who Am I Career Discovery Podcast. I'm Joni Cannell, and I interview people who are in the process of transforming their lives. I have with me today a very interesting podcast guest who hosts his own podcast as well. And I'm sure he's going to tell you a lot about that. And if he doesn't, I'll ask. Don't worry. Let's welcome Jeff Snyder. Jeff is a lover of life. He loves sports, hanging out with friends, trying new and progressive things, and traveling, among many other things. He's also an expert on baseball, basketball, football, the millennial mindset, sales, and eating. Wow, Jeff, you do a lot of interesting things. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually just had a meal like 10, 20 minutes ago. So I feel like I'm even more of an expert on eating than I once was.
Yes, and I know I dragged you off the field here from umpiring too. So you've got the baseball going today as well.
Oh yeah, it's baseball is like I think someone recently asked me what uh like what language do you speak? And my response was baseball. English is just a conduit really to more baseball often.
Oh, fun. Wow, so you must have played for a long time as a kid too, or?
Yeah, I grew up playing. The funny thing is there's no one in my family who's like really that into sports.
Mm-hmm.
So it was truly, and this could be something that you're into. It was truly me like kind of forging my path there. I feel like a lot of people that get into sports, it's like, well, my dad was the quarterback or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like, my dad played lineman or whatever that sport is, and then you kind of grow up with your father figure that's kind of helping you through that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, and that's like a bonding experience. Whereas me, it was like, well, I just know I really like this. I know, and my parents were really supportive of like helping me, um, get the equipment and join the teams and driving me to practices and driving me to select teams. So it's a testament to them that it kept me going. And here I am today at 23, still obsessed with baseball. So I guess something was done right.
Well, that's great. Wow, talk about finding one of your passions in life. And you still, do you volunteer or do you get paid to do this or yeah, tell me about what you're doing.
I get paid. It's like it depends on the league. It's anywhere from like 40 to like $90 per game. So
Oh, wow.
it's not bad at all. And it gets you outside at least, and I just enjoy the environment of being around the kids. And sometimes I feel like I want to coach them up a little bit because they can
Mm,
frustrate me in certain ways and I'll usually ask the coach. I'll say like, hey, do you mind if I like pull this kid aside to talk to him? But otherwise, if you're an umpire, it can be a little like fluky if you're doing something like that because it
okay.
looks like you're supporting like one team more than the
Right.
other.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you're on watch by every pair of eyes in there. Yeah. Oh, funny. Well, what else do you do? Tell me a little bit about, your story, I suppose. What's your experience and what are you doing now besides being an umpire?
Oh goodness. I'm doing lots of different things. I was
Hmm.
working a wedding this Saturday, this past Saturday in Baltimore, as a server slash bartender for
Okay.
this company. So that's something. It's almost like the Uber of working like private events, which is kind of cool. They
Hmm.
also they have relationships with the Watergate around here, with the Four Seasons in DC and Baltimore. So they have lots of big connections, and you just go and you like put in your hours, and it's something nice because you can turn on and have your own schedule. I like the idea that I could just put everything down and go down to North Carolina and see friends for 3 days whenever I want, or I could just go off and do some sort of spontaneous trip because that's what's drawing me to this kind of company where I don't have like set days that I can take off or throughout the
Hmm.
week. Um, so I'm doing that. I do the umpiring. I'm doing the podcasting.
Hmm.
Hopefully, or eventually, I should say, I'll start another podcast and site that'll be like just more of like a sports platform,
Hmm.
and so that people can kind of have like a hub there. And then also start up my own training baseball program for the fall. or sorry, for the starting up next spring. So I have a good amount of time to kind of develop it through the winter months when nobody's really playing baseball. And then I'll get my field space and have my equipment and set up like just kind of blocks where people can go and get like pitching or hitting coaching from yours truly.
Oh, that'll be fun. I like what you're doing is real flexibility there and having a variety of things that you do so that you're not stuck just doing one thing all day.
Yeah, it puts me in a lot of different worlds, and I know from
Hmm.
what we've talked about, I want to get into more of a consulting role and
Hmm.
more of like and really I want to see my own like ventures grow, and I feel like I need to be a little more flexible in my time with those kinds of
Hmm.
things, and
Hmm.
that way I can put more work on it when that's really being asked of me.
Right. So how long have you been doing this? You've been out of college for how long now?
I graduated college in May of 2015.
Okay.
So I guess pretty much 2.5 years now. Wow.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it took me a little while to get my first job. I did a ton of interviewing I knew I was going to work in sports sales. So I interviewed for jobs as much as I could find. I interviewed for the Dolphins. I interviewed for the Pirates, the Monumental Sports. That was like while I was in college. I had that one,
Hmm.
and it's a competitive world working within sports sales. There's
Yeah.
people love really want to work for these teams. So I uh, I ended up going to a sales combine in Winston Salem for IMG and the NCAA,
Hmm.
and that's where I got my start in Indianapolis, working at the NCAA's headquarters, selling their March Madness tickets, selling softball, which is in Omaha, and really just a wide array of things. Big Ten football tickets, and so I did that for four months. And before that, I had I think that was from October or like September to December of that year. But
Hmm.
before that, I had been talking to the Nationals, and I'm from Maryland, and I knew I wanted to be working in baseball. So I had coffee. I had just asked a guy that worked there on their sales team for coffee, and I was like, "Hey, will you talk with me about career stuff?" And he was nice enough to do it. So he connected me with the sales manager, and then that sales manager was like, "You should go do this job essentially, and then come back and work for us." So I was like, "Okay," because they hire in like classes, which are like
Yeah.
6-month things.
Hmm.
So then he's like, "All right, well, we've got our January one starting up, so we want you to come back." And I was like, "Heck yeah, I'd love to move back and do that." So I did that from January to December of 2016, uh, and then I got a job with a company called League Apps, which is a sports software company. It's a startup, very
Hmm.
progressive startup, fun little company in New York City. But I kind of realized that I didn't necessarily want to be doing the sales route my entire life, and I did that for 4 months, selling their baseball packages to like leagues, tournaments, camps. So I quit that job, and then I worked over the summer for the Nationals summer camps, just kind of a way to fill my summer and do something that I knew that I would really enjoy. And I did that for the 3 months during the summer, and now after that, I think that ended in August. So really, from then, I've just been working on those things that I had just been talking about before.
Wow, that's a lot in a short time. Yeah. Um, so, what did you study in school? I'm just curious.
Yeah, strategic communications and sport management.
Oh, okay. So you really started doing what you studied right out of college then.
Hmm.
Excellent. And do you think you'll do more of that or yeah, it doesn't sound like you're doing that right now, so I was curious.
Actually, I would say I am in a way.
Okay.
I mean, strategic communications is like public speaking, and I did
Right.
like a radio practicum there, so
Right.
podcasting definitely falls under
Okay.
that realm. And
Right.
um, then obviously I'd almost add like if there was like a business degree and then sport management, it would almost be all like in one like hub
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
I'm doing, because sport management, it would be the running of a sports organization, which eventually I would grow my trainings into running a
Okay.
team, and then running
Okay.
into, running camps and running different
Mm-hmm.
leagues. So that's kind of how that works. So actually, I haven't really ever thought of it
Mm-hmm.
recently this way of like, I don't think you really look back daily and I'm like, oh, am I doing what I did in college? But I guess I am still doing things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So not the sales, but more of the management.
Mhm.
And that sounds like something that could be really interesting. Huh. Wow. Um, and well, I'm curious. You talked about other things that you've done, like traveling and all that. Where did you get that in?
That was I went abroad my spring semester of junior year
Mm-hmm.
to Prague.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a close friend from home for that was at Penn State at the time, said that he was going to Prague that
Mm-hmm.
semester, and High Point, my school, had a program through NC State that was like, it was right in the middle of, it was in between Old Town and New Town in
Mm-hmm.
Prague. It was in the coolest little spot. Have you been to the
Never
Czech?
been to Prague. Nope. Or yeah,
Oh,
Czechoslovakia. No, not at all.
it's an amazing city. The architecture is amazing. The food is good. It's very hearty and wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
They're very known for their beer. But it was
Mm-hmm.
also a relatively inexpensive place for me to go. There, you could get like a meal there for like $6, and
Oh,
my
wow.
parents gave me no money to go there. Uh, so maybe sharing more than you'd want, but I was making a good amount of money sports betting at the time. So I
Uh-huh.
was truly financing my trips through sports betting at a certain point. And I just got on a really lucky streak. And I was like, oh, hey, let's go to London and see these
Mm-hmm.
friends that are abroad at this time. So I did that. While I was there, I went to Barcelona. I went to Sevilla. I went to Lagos and Lisbon in Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
Went to really all over Italy with my family at the end of the trip, in Florence and Rome. Um, Went to Berlin, Vienna, Austria, which was a nice, cute city. Super nice people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Copenhagen,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was probably the more overrated of all of the cities I went to. Sorry
Mm-hmm.
if there's anyone who loves Copenhagen here. Um, Except for the biking, I thought the biking in the cobblestone streets were nice,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure I'm missing a few, but yeah, that was kind of all of where I went. And then my family travels a lot, so we've gone to my mom and I actually went to all 30 of the MLB stadiums from the time I've been 12. So
Wow.
throughout the country, that was like a little
Mm-hmm.
bucket list thing we did, and we
Mm-hmm.
completed that in Seattle right before we went to Hawaii this year. So been traveling a lot, probably more than most 23-year-olds. I'm a lucky guy,
Yeah.
and I think the next spot for me is actually gonna be more exploring out west where you are.
Oh, cool. Come
Yeah,
to San Diego. Come visit. Yeah.
I'd love to. San Diego is amazing.
Yeah, you heard it here. You got an invitation, so all right. Um,
Well, shoot, if that's the only thing that comes of this meeting, I think
I
we'll.
know. We're done. Okay. I want to ask you though, because I think it's really interesting talking to people who are in at your age range, out of college, a couple of years. You've had a lot of different experiences, so you think you have a lot to share. But what are some of your questions about life right now in general? I mean, what do you think about? What kind of issues are there out there for you?
Gosh, I mean, I've had some tough questions about life when you
Mm-hmm.
when you think about, and it's not just me, more like what's going on in the world with
Yeah.
our current president today,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the mass shooting in Las Vegas. Those are things where you feel really helpless because it's like, what do I do in this moment? And I
Mm-hmm.
want to give back in my way, and I want to contribute to the cause, but if things like gun control aren't going to be, that's such a political thing that it's harder to give. I know I had talked to people who were going like door to door in Virginia, because in Maryland there's nothing I could do. We're already voting against those things. But in Virginia, you actually can have some sway. So I would go there. So definitely asking questions about where the world's going today, and saying like, how can I leave my impact? I really want, and I know that's something you said on my podcast. Other questions, it really, I know a lot of people are into, drinking at my age and still like staying out and partying. I'm a little less into that now. I feel like this is the time, like when I was in high school and before, I never cared about my grades. I never even like gave it a second thought. It was all about just passing and getting through. But I knew that once I graduated college and I was outside of school, that I wanted to do whatever, like it kind of lit a fire under me. And I was like, all right, well, this is your time to like do what you care about, because you've been through this system that really takes you through and creates a structure for you this whole time. And now it's my time to like give back and to leave the impact on the world that matters for me. So it's really asking questions about what that is. Obviously maintaining my relationships that I currently have and forming new ones, and networking a lot. And that during this time is important, but it's kind of, how am I going to leave my impact? How am I going to, find my next meal? Because, I'm obviously not in any trouble in that way, but you still need to be cognizant of like what your money situation is, especially with me, and realizing like, and I know that can be a taboo topic for people, but I think more and more taboo topics are leaving us, which is a good thing, I hope. I think we need to move away from PC culture, and we need to be willing to have those discussions. I had respect the other day. A girl, when I was serving at this wedding, was like, look, she was like, I'm not sure if my boyfriend can like come to pick me up at this event. Like if I can't get picked up, like, would anyone be able to drive me home? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like the fact that you were willing to like say something like that, obviously it's very vulnerable. Like but you just do the best you can to, lend your helping hand, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Do you find that's what other folks your age are dealing with too, or is that feeling like something more unique to you, or where are you at on that?
No, I think that's something people deal with all the time. I mean, I'm back living in. I've moved out twice in Indianapolis and New York, but I'm back living at home. I'll move back out again shortly soon, but I realize that I'm kind of lucky in that sense that I, have my parents who are willing to, keep me here, and as long as I'm still contributing good things and caring. And not just, eating Cheetos on the couch, like I said on Doug's podcast. But it's like, as long as, you have like a plan for these kind of things. It's like, what's the term with financial planning? A bad plan is better than no plan. So having a plan is what's really important at my stage. And I think that a lot of people at my age, actually, and not to be, this isn't really a problem, but a lot of people don't care about the passion and the purpose quite as much. It can really just be like, all right, well, where am I making my money? Like, where can I go out with my friends this weekend? And that's really it. And if that's what you want, then that's fine, as long as it's a conscious decision, is kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I was actually reacting to that silently over here, saying, wow, you're big on these important issues at such a young age. It's impressive. A lot of people aren't really there yet. So thinking about what your impact is on the world at 23, wow, that's the kind of thing that I think people more my age are trying to deal with at this point, and maybe wondering, what have I done all this time? You've talked about your podcast. Let's hear what you do. What is your podcast, and how is that making an impact?
It's not making that much impact
Oh,
yet.
it is. Well, your plan for it. That's
The
that's the
plan's
next
good.
question. Yeah.
The plan's good, and we have so I know that's something we've talked about, us two,
Mm-hmm.
but me and my I guess my partner Russell, his birthday is actually today, so happy birthday,
Oh,
Russ.
happy birthday. Yeah.
We had been talking about having a podcast for a while, and I think a big part is like you want to be able to document what's going on in your life, and you want to feel like you have that voice. So this is kind of our way of having the voice towards our post-college life experience. And then I also think that it gives you a kind of a channel to discuss the issues that you think in your life that you should care about. Like, so it kind of just provides that platform. Eventually, the plan is ideally we'd like to create a community of people that are in this post-college age who don't necessarily know what they're doing, where we can kind of help them out and provide like, where should I buy this furniture? How much should I be paying in rent in the Phoenix area? And provide that kind of platform and where people are like, hey, I'm just coming out of Washington State University. I'm moving to Boston. I would just want to connect with some people. And I know obviously you could just say you just explain Facebook, but this is kind of like a different way to cater that different message and to have more of a defined demographic behind it, and also share more stories.
Yeah, I know. I love the stories. I've listened, and I think that's what makes it richer. I mean, anyone can just send you a link to a furniture store, but if someone has a story about it, that's going to make the difference. And if you go there or not, I think, yeah. So what is your podcast called, and what's tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's called Post College Life. You can find it on really any podcast channel. We're on iTunes. I think we're on Stitcher. We're on really anywhere that you would look. So would love for people to connect with us through there.
Yeah.
We've released, I think, 11 or 12 or 13 episodes at this point. So a couple of them are, a little bit more lighter and fun, just like a taste test. And then there'll be something that's a little more serious where you talk about, where Russ is talking with his friend Roni about, about being what's the term? I mean, it's losing me, but someone who helps through a birthing process.
Oh, a doula.
Yeah, doula.
Yes, I listened to that one, so I was like, yes, I know.
Yeah. So something about that, which is catered to, and her story is super cool. How she knew that what she wanted her entire life, but it's really sharing those stories and having a platform for people like that, and it's exciting for both of us to be able to talk with people and have these kinds of conversations.
So what worries you? I mean, as you're making these plans moving forward, doing your sports management, doing your podcasting, what keeps you up at night?
I think a lot of it, what the main thing for me is staying consistent with it. If I'm consistent, I'll find that incremental change, like that incremental progress is what I really mean. If I say this Tuesday at 10 a.m. I'm going to be working on this, then I'll succeed, because I'm not the best with time management. I've really not really ever had a calendar much in my life. I've been the kind of person that'll just go out and kind of play sports or play video games or do whatever and kind of just hang out. So a lot of that is really catering a lot of that down and actually being serious about how I treat my time, especially because, I mean, I'm technically an entrepreneur now. I need to figure out how I'm using this time and blocking off the different areas of I have to say no to friends who want to hang out at certain times, and I also can say yes at other times, but it needs to be something that's more structured. So when I lose things like that, that's kind of what worries me, and then you can kind of get overwhelmed with all of those different things being in circulation.
I hear what you're saying. That's sort of a transitional piece there in terms of being more structured and having to plan more of how you spend your time. And it sounds like prioritizing is a bit of an issue there too. Yeah.
I essentially need a time management coach / secretary for me.
I know it would be nice for everyone, I would think, frankly. I mean, maybe some people really get that down, but sometimes I feel like we all want more time than we have.
It's the best asset you can have. I
Yeah.
mean, right? What happens when you don't have time? You don't have life.
Yeah. Deep. Wow.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. And, my dad always said, when you're young, you have time. When you're older, you often have more money, so making those trade-offs. But when you have more money, you still don't have the time, but maybe
Right.
you could pay someone to do something for you so you could gain some of that back. I don't know, but there's always these trade-offs between those two. Well, I know one of the things that you're working toward, you're saying in terms of your plans and all that, is looking at what businesses can do to cater more toward millennials. And I was wondering if you had some ideas on that. With your experience so far, how can businesses cater more toward millennials?
It's interesting. I think Doug Sandler on the Nice Guys podcast asked a good question that was really narrowed down on this. I think the more you can get the individual out of their work, the more they'll want to work for you, the harder they'll work for you, and the better work they'll produce.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can somehow do different things, whether it's kind of things like what you're talking about, like finding their strength, but also, I'm saying this realizing that there's going to be different end goals that companies need to hit, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start hitting those end goals faster and easier and with better communication if you're letting your star players play the best within the game that they're best at.
Right.
It's like people can find their zone and basically, anything that's like more progressive within the workplace, I'm probably for. Whether it be like starting up like a sports team within your group, or like a book club or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds simple, but I'm sure those are things that you live with all the time. But things that'll bring people together. I know my little sister, she's a freshman at Tulane right now. So she's in a colloquium class where they literally just get together and talk about issues with
Right.
the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you could have that within a workplace, that would
Wow.
that would actually like elicit more like deeper conversations about the world, which would then in turn create more conversations about what's going on within the workplace.
I love that. A colloquium, like during lunch or something, that people just get together and talk about big issues. Yeah. Seriously. I mean, because we get so narrowly focused on, today's tasks or whatever without thinking about the bigger pictures or relationships and all that. So, yeah.
I love things where, because like, if you're only getting emails that are like pertaining to your line of work throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
or you're only seeing those things, you're going to be starving for like different types of connectivity, I think.
Yeah.
So if you can introduce a lot of different concepts to people
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day and allow them to still like learn and grow throughout their workday, I think that's the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to fall into like, well, you are a X, for this company,
Yep.
you're in marketing, so you don't have opinions on whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever sales is doing. Whereas I think it would be really funny and also fun if you had to switch roles for the day and you'd introduce more new ideas, and it would be more of like an integrative process if you had things like that.
I can imagine. Yeah. People just asking questions like, hey, why are you doing it this way? And they'd be like, whoa, we never thought about that before, because you just take it for granted. Somebody who doesn't know anything about that area, it would be great to get some extra perspective on that. Yeah.
It'd be new and fresh all the time.
Yeah.
I think that'd be funny.
Yeah. It would be very useful too. Talk about adding innovation and creativity to the workplace.
People, when they're here's another, when they're put into uncomfortable and different, situations, that's when the new things arise, right? Like, I think it comes back to that thing that's like, well-behaved women like rarely make history, or well-behaved people never.
Yes.
It's, you need to break the mold. You need to have a new insight and
Mm-hmm.
a new perspective all the time. So whether that means like having some random kid intern coming in, a new one like all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
have them sharing their ideas, whatever you need to do to make that happen. But you won't want new or fresh ideas all the time.
Yeah. No, you have wisdom beyond your years, Jeff. Wow. Let me ask you on the other side of this, if you could get some kind of advice or knowledge or something right now, what would that be? What would you want it to be? Like, what are you looking
Gosh.
for? Yeah. You said you would like some more time management skills, but if you're looking for advice or from folks who've been in there for a while, what kind of things are you looking for to hear?
I think that's a good question, because the most important asset other than the time you have is your brain. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're talking about entrepreneurs who had started their own company, like, or who have been really successful,
Right.
they have that confidence where they're like, I know that if you made me start from nothing right now, I could like scratch and grind and do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm.
sure I have a ton to learn within that realm. It's just, um, I don't know. I guess it wouldn't quite be learning if I had already learned it.
Right. So you're saying like how to get that confidence or learn from the experience that you would be able to know that you could do it again, sort of having hindsight in some ways.
That's yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with it. But like, I realize that journey is going to lead to more and more wisdom in that way. In a
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how to answer, but if that's a way of answering it, then
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I also love it because I think you're kind of grasping the point that sometimes you just need to learn things yourself, and by
Yeah.
trying and doing, that you can get the advice, but you don't always listen to it, right?
No.
I mean, but once you've been through it, then you can handle it after
I'm
you've done
stubborn.
it.
I often need to learn things in my own way,
Yeah,
and I
I
realize
know what you mean in that regard. And sometimes people are just looking for that quick fix, like, hey, just tell me how to do this, and you're like, no, you got to figure it out, and that's what builds the confidence there too to start over. I think in some ways,
yeah.
that's really interesting. Yeah, no, I appreciate you sort of bringing that up. So, do you have anything else that you'd like to raise? As questions, concerns, or lessons learned from you as we wrap up here?
Oh goodness.
That's
Lessons
like,
learned for me
yeah.
is try new things, love the
Mm-hmm.
life, and appreciate the things that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One thing my mother's big on, and she does, is, and a funny thing that I'm doing in like a fantasy league is I'm a appreciation guy now. So if you can pick out like 5 different things that you're appreciating with your from your day, and you can
Huh.
start out your day with that, it can be a powerful thing. So if that's
Nice.
a message that I can spread and you learn one thing from Jeff Snyder, it's
Yeah.
start your day with 5 different pieces of appreciation. And whether it be that I have a breath that I can breathe today, or that I enjoy that I just bought this new countertop, or that I have a comfy chair that I can sit in, or
Mm-hmm.
food, whatever it be. But
Mm-hmm.
all of those things matter and have purpose, and it can also be the people in your life. So share that. And also, the more you can collaborate with other people and share things like that. If you were to just send a random friend like 5 different pieces of appreciation and ask for theirs, I think it'd be a fun little task,
Oh, I
and
like
something that
that.
would connect you with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that I could do and could be better about, and maybe that's something I'll start.
I like that. Actually, why not? Get on your social media and start appreciating people and seeing what you can, learn from them as well, what they appreciate about you.
Yeah, and you find out who your real friends are in that way too, right?
Huh. Yeah.
If they're gonna be give you a positive response, you know that, because how would if you're thinking negative things from that, then what's wrong with you? you know
Yeah.
And
Oh
you want,
man.
and one thing I've learned is, you need to keep great people around you in your life,
Mhm.
and you want to keep the good people close. So that's that's like something immediately, like if I'm getting a good response from you, then I understand like that you're someone that will help me grow, and I'll help you grow through our relationship as friends or whatever.
Well, I think you just hit it on a high note there. Let's just appreciate you, Jeff, for bringing that up and being willing to be on this podcast. So let's wrap it up today and say thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. And we can connect with you. How? You gave that your Twitter handler?
It's post college pod through Twitter, and
Yeah.
then on Instagram it's post college life pod, and on Facebook it's just post college life pod, and
Okay.
so yeah, and download, subscribe, and but yeah, thank you, Joni, so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks a lot, Jeff. And we'll wrap it up right there.